best in radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
You're listening to the Financial Survival Network. It's Kerry, Lutz, and hey, today it is October 29th, and the FOMC is concluding their meeting. And of course, they're talking tough on the dollar, which is causing gold to go down and the dollar to go up. And well, we haven't talked with Ross Hansen, who's the head of Northwest Territorial Mint, largest privately held mint in North America, in a while. So thought it was a good time to have him on to get a brief overview of exactly what's going on with gold, the dollar, the world economy, the U.S. economy. So here he is. Ross, welcome back.
Thank you, Terry.
Hey, and thank you. So what's your take on all this? Is it just more of the same and nothing's really changed, or, tapering and all that? Is it really going to make a difference?
Well, Terry, there's that old cliche about rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, and I really believe that that's what they're doing. When you step back and look at the overall economy and look at the overall infrastructure of the United States and our financial infrastructure, and realize how just absolutely abysmal it is. It's just so dismal that when you look at everything that's going on and you look at the debt that continues to pile up, and you have all these nervous speculators. I don't call them investors anymore. I call them speculators on Wall Street. They're all racing around trying to, make pennies on a trade, and you're seeing the hysteria that has become Wall Street. The Wall Street has always been filled with speculators of all stripes, making things go up and down in a manipulative way. But nowadays, with modern technology and computerized trading, it's just exacerbated the corruption that has always existed. And what will happen is that as a panicked herd, just kind of like a herd of cows. I was raised on the farm, and when cows were nervous, the smallest noise, whether it be a yipping coyote or a gunshot, could get everybody running in one direction or another. And that's kind of a good analogy of what's happening on Wall Street. You've got a bunch of nervous Nellies, and they're sitting there because they realize that it's a house of cards. They're waiting for the music to stop. And if you ever played that game when you're a kid, you're on edge. And then the minute that there's an offbeat note, you kind of jump for your chair. And that's why you see these wild swings on a daily basis. You see, 300 points up one day and then 200 points down the next day. And it's because they realize that this is a game of fools. And it's people who recognize that the string has run out on our financial well-being of our country. The economy hasn't gotten any better. We've inflated the currency to a point where they can't inflate it anymore. And the FOMC has come back, and they just said, we can't inflate this anymore. And yet, the economy is such bad shape that we're not seeing the inevitable inflation right now, because people are taking that cash that they're creating and they're hoarding it. They don't dare spend it. And what they have done is they've stuck it into stocks, and they've stuck it into bonds, but they haven't put it onto Wall Street. And that's why the economy, or not Wall Street, but Main Street. And that's why stocks and bonds, the bond rate is very low, and stocks are very high, because that's where all this created money has gone into. And the stated reason that they came out and they inflated the currency was so that it would hit Main Street and help the local economies. But most people aren't creditworthy anymore, especially under new standards. So they have this constipation of cash that has come out of Washington, lands in New York, and it doesn't go anywhere. And eventually, they realize that kind of if you're constipated, you've got to quit eating. And that's what the FOMC is doing, is they realize that creating all this money is doing no good, because it's not getting out onto Main Street.
Yeah, and that's why we've got the velocity of money at its lowest, rate in since they've been keeping the measurement, and it keeps going lower and lower, right?
Well, yes, and there's an old adage, to wax of proverbs today. You can talk about it, and they say, figures don't lie, but liars figure.
Yeah.
And of course, the party in power in this case is the Liberal Democrats. And they're best at not telling the truth. And what you have is them manipulating numbers, and they keep talking about as one commentator said, he calls them low information voters, and it's really true. The 90+% of our population nowadays, they can tell you Mariah Carey's hairdresser, but they can't tell you who the Vice President of the United States is. Mm-hmm. And what happens is you've had a great number of the people in the United States just tune out. They've tuned out if they're not interested in politics, other than the dog whistles that get them sometimes motivated.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. They don't even know. Yeah, like you said, they don't know who the vice president is, the secretary of state. They don't even know that the Federal Reserve exists and what they're up to. And, they don't even know that the money was once backed up by gold. It's interesting, Ross. I interviewed Jeff Bell. I don't know if you've been following him at all. He's running for Senate, U.S. Senator in New Jersey, and he's actually running on a platform to reinstitute the gold standard. And basically his campaign has been all but ignored by the mainstream media. And a few of us out there have been following him. But, I think he has virtually no chance of getting elected. But at least somebody out there is trying to tell the truth.
Well, and the bottom line is that most people are going to ignore it. The country is like a junkie or an alcoholic, and until they wake up with their nose in the gutter, they don't see any reason to change their bad behavior. And there's just too many people benefiting for the government's bad behavior. You have the people in Wall Street and the people within the government, and then you have all the people that are the consumers of all of this free money policies, and they outnumber the people who are reasonable. And when you have a mob that is benefiting for these policies, and when you talk to these people, they don't really care about tomorrow. They're just worried about, making sure that they can survive for the day. And that's in the world that we've created. And there's people out there who just simply don't want to look towards the future. They say, well, we'll deal with that when it happens. And what we're doing is we've kicked the can down so far down the road that there's no road left. And I look at it and I think, well, right now they're trying to hold everything together for the election. And right after the election, they're going to hit us with a bunch of bad news. The best way to look at the health of the economy of any country is look at the labor participation rate. In the end, everything stems from how many people are working. In my company, my people, I just came out of a managers meeting where I had about 15 of my top managers in my company. And of course, we're a manufacturer. We have a plant in Texas and another one in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and then my main plant is in Dayton, Nevada. But we have 7 facilities. So each one of the managers of those facilities, plus the production managers and plus all of the other different people who, run the numbers in my company, sit down. We all come together once a week, and they give me the numbers. And in the end, it doesn't matter, how many people we employ. It doesn't matter how efficient, one department is to another if there's not sales. And in our company, sales, we focus a lot on sales because it all starts with sales.
Yeah.
And with the government, the sale is people working and participating in the labor. And from that stems taxable activity. And that's how the government functions, is by taxable activity. You're either going to be making wages that we're going to tax, or you're going to be making product that we can tax, or you're going to be generating some type of corporate income that we can tax. From that activity, that's the sale to the United States government, and that flows into the coffers of the United States. And we have forgotten about the sale, and they're running around worrying about borrowing money, and they're doing all these other things that are, that are masking the underlying problems of our economy. And they talk. One of the things that I like to say is, putting lipstick on a pig. And our economy and the health of the United States is a real pig. And we run around worrying about Ebola and all these other things that are emotionally charged. But we're not talking about the things that are the hardest to talk about. And the things that are hardest to talk about is the things that are boring. Sitting down and actually doing the books and looking at how we're going to get people in this country back to work. And nobody seems to be addressing that. What they want to do is they want to hit the emotional, sexy items. Today we're going to talk about the IRS, and tomorrow we're going to talk about Benghazi, and the day after that we'll talk about Ebola. Mm-hmm. But let's get back and do the books. And if you sit there and you open the books up and look at the books are in terrible condition. And so their solution is you know what? We're just not spending enough money.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. We've been spending more money than we've been taking in since I can remember. I mean, literally. Right. I mean, how many decades has it been? Going back to the late 50s. We've been doing the same thing. And so you really could arguably trace the decline back to the 60s, but okay. So the 70s, when Nixon closed the gold window, take it back to then. But, nobody has wanted to face the facts to then. But interesting, you mentioned the labor participation rate. That's at a all-time low since women entered the labor force, which they did, again, because of inflation, right? I mean, that's why women entered why they left the home and started working, right?
Well, what you had a cultural shift. If you want to talk about women in labor market, back, prior to World War II, women worked in the home because there was a lot of work for women. Women were raising their children, and just the amount of labor it took to keep up a home. Washing was, it took hours every day. Modern convenience allowed, women to free up their time. And then with World War II, they came into the labor market. And, there's a sea change going on in this country right now. 60% of the people entering college are women. And men are falling out of college, and women are going into college at a greater rate than ever before. And what we're seeing from that is, as women become better educated, they're starting to, in this next election that we're going to have next week, I'm actually encouraged, because women, as in many other groups too, that have traditionally voted one way because of maybe emotional issues. As women find their own place in the labor market and find, and become better educated, as we see more and more women going to college, you start to see them becoming more conservative, because instead of just voting on an emotional issue, like the war on women issue, women are actually taking more and more responsibility for their own finances. And when that happens, then they start looking at things and they go, hold on. And they have the same concerns a man would. Why am I paying so much taxes? And if I do pay these taxes, what do I get for it? And I think it's wonderful, because we all, men, women, we all need to start looking at our own finances, and we all need to make the government accountable. And as we advance as a society, more information becomes available. People can start looking at things, and if they're so inclined, the information and the numbers are available. And maybe this election will be a sea change for people can start looking at the real problems instead of all of the emotional issues that have driven us in the past.
Yeah. Well, I think you're definitely onto something there. As far as gold and silver goes, 3-year bear market there. We going to start coming out of this soon? What's your feeling about about future price movement there?
Well, you've got to look at a couple of things that's happened in the gold market. First of all, the Indian government, which has even a worse government than we have.
If you could believe it. If you could believe it.
Yeah. Well, people in India don't and have never trusted their own government. And their currencies have never been worth anything. It's they have a history of printing up a lot of fiat money. So people of India, what's one of the oldest cultures in the world, are really smart. They say, you know what? We're not going to trust government bonds. We're not going to trust government paper. What we're going to do is we're going to buy gold. And Indians, have that as part of their cultural heritage. And the Indian government was so alarmed by that, and they said, hold on, we would like to print more money, that to try to stem the Indians' cultural and natural tendency to buy gold, they banned imports. They not banned them, but they put a tremendous tax on the importation of gold. And what that did is all the gold that would normally flow into India got diverted. It got back into the world market because India, with the taxes, couldn't import very much gold. It was just not economical. You also have a slowdown which has happened in China. And the Chinese economy is really, to excuse the pun, is really a paper tiger. Mm-hmm. The Chinese economy and the amount of money that the Chinese have created makes our banking system look healthy.
That's true.
And in the near future, you're going to see the collapse of China. And, you're starting to see a democracy movement take hold in Hong Kong right now. Mm-hmm. And the Chinese people kind of have a tradition of revolution. And it's been tamped down for the last 60 years because of communism. But I think what's going to happen is people in China, as in all of the world, want to be free. They want to be masters of their own destiny. And I think once that comes out, the planned economy of China is going to collapse. And that could be good news for gold. It could be bad news for gold. In one way, all of that money that the Chinese government is printing, a lot of that has flowed into commodities. And there's been some massive fraud that's happening in China when it comes to gold and copper and base metals. And so there can be some pretty big swings. But right now, what people need to be focused on is not these marginal issues, whether the FOMC has raised rates or dropped rates, or whether they're going to do a QE3 or reinstitute a QE4. What you need to do is you need to keep your eye on the ball and realize that the fundamental underlying issues that have driven people to buy gold in the past are still there, and they're continuing to exasperate.
Yeah. And picking up steam. I mean, let's face it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just because it's not in the news, it doesn't mean that it's a problem. It's not a problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. So, and I assume that your sales really haven't gone down any over the past 3 years either, while prices have been going down.
Well, actually, they have gone down. And I'll tell you what, and the whole industry, what happened is that in 2008 and 2009, when we had the financial shock to our country, people started looking at the losses that they took in the stock market, and people started scrambling around for alternative investments. And that was one of the reasons that gold, went up substantially. And the people who are going to panic about that have panicked. And because it's out of the headline, the price of gold is not daily making new highs. It's waned in public interest, and that's helped bring the price down. But I got to tell you something. To me, I'm fine with that because I don't own enough gold personally. Mm-hmm. And if they want to put gold on sale, hey, I can buy more.
Yeah. And the U.S. government, what impact? Do they care if the price goes up or down, really?
I just spent four days in Washington, D.C. Last weekend, or not last weekend, but last week. And I have to tell you, I don't think they really care. And there's a lot of people out there who really believe that the U.S. government is interested in the price of gold. And I don't think they do. I don't think they really care. I don't think that there's a group of people who are really concerned about what the price of gold is. Not in the government, maybe in the shadow secondary government, but in the government itself, people don't care. They're not that deep thinkers. What they do is they come to work and they turn the handle of their bureaucracy. And, Washington, D.C. Really needs to change its name. It needs to be, the new name for it should be Rome, because it's become almighty and all powerful. And I got to tell you something, when you drive around, it looks like Rome. Even all the new buildings that they're building, they really do look like, the Roman era. And all the richest part of the country now is centered around Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. And when you drive the streets, you just see the incredible amount of wealth. And that wealth has all been put there because we voted these people in who are exercising their influence. And every time that you have power equates to money, and money is power. And so they're interchangeable. And so you have all these politicians and all the people that are whispering in their ear and all the people that are jockeying for position and there's just so much money there that, they've never had a recession in the home price in Washington, D.C., and Washington, D.C. continues to build and become greater and greater and greater. And someday it's going to implode. But for right now, I got to tell you something, it's booming.
I know. I was coming down 95 and about 60 miles south of D.C. in Virginia. I had to take a rest stop, and it was a brand new suburb that was fully built out, high-end everything. It was rather shocking. I don't know why I was surprised. So on that note, gold and silver for the long run. I agree with you, Ross. And Northwest Territorial Mint, I bought from you numerous times in the past, Ross, and will in the future. So thanks for coming on. Really appreciate you being with us.
Well, Terry, thanks for putting the word out, and let's onward and upward.
Yeah, okay. Thanks so much, Ross.
Thank you, sir.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
Every week the show is growing. Would you like to be a part of it? Then go to clubfsn.com and help support us with $1, $2, $5, or $10 a month and get a host of premium content with newsletters dropped into your mailbox, free books, private audio clips, webinars, and much more. Then join clubfsn.com. If you want to get ahead of the trend and ensure your family's financial security before it's too late, go to clubfsn.com and sign up.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
Urgent alert. Ex-Secret Service agent claims it's worse than people know. One of Obama's former Secret Service agents recently smelled a rat. What he discovered inside our government was so devastating, he only saw one option. He quit. What's worse, he fears what he found could affect your job, your neighborhood, and most importantly, your family, very soon. It's worse than people know, he said in a recent interview, and I'm not trying to scare you either. We, too, share his concerns. This is why we've devoted the better part of 3 years collecting solutions for nearly all problems created by intrusive governments. And we've succeeded. Go to hiddensecrets1.info to check out all the details. Our panel of insiders have devised a legal but sneaky set of solutions to help you reclaim your privacy from the NSA, opt out of Obamacare, and make a bundle from little-known investments and small business opportunities. Simply visit hiddensecrets1.info. That's Hidden Secrets, the number 1.info.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.